Welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, giving you your weekly look at what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheehan, joined, as always, by my trusty co-host, Dave Martin, Swagger Dave. What's going on, man?
Hey, man, have you ever considered your abilities to defeat an orangutan in one-on-one combat? Because I have recently, and I didn't expect that.
And
If you
what
know,
are
you
what are
know.
your thoughts on it?
I think you got to watch the Planet of the Apes recent trilogy for Matt Reeves if you don't know the answer. That's what I would say about that.
Yeah, some hot takes on my Instagram story about what a wild orangutan could do to the entire population of the Northeast. So if you want to check that out, Life of Sheeny on Twitter or on Instagram. But more importantly, we have some interesting conversations today about some music, a lot of music actually, some TV, and one movie that is, spoiler alert, not great. But before we get there, go to twitter.com and follow us at NowstalgiaPod. Go to youtube.com and follow us, NowstalgiaPod. And also go to soundcloud.com/NowstalgiaPod to follow the podcast any way you want to listen to it. And share us with friends because we talk about pretty much as much pop culture as any podcast out there. So, Dave, I want to give you the floor a little bit. Unfortunately, we're starting off this week with the death of another up-and-coming rapper, a very promising rapper in Pop Smoke. Give me a little bit of the lowdown and then kind of like your perspective on this loss.
Yeah, Pop Smoke, 20 years old, Brooklyn rapper, murdered in L.A. over the weekend, was it? Friday? I forget what day it was. A few days ago now. Yeah, really, really sad and unexpected news, as you can imagine, when someone's tragically killed, of course. And yeah, we've been having this conversation a lot recently, which is unfortunate. But Pop Smoke in particular is a pretty tragic loss because he was a huge rising star in just like an 18-month career. So like, welcome to the party, his big debut single, really tore it up in New York City last summer and was a huge smash. Got the Nicki Minaj remix, really big hit, really honestly a really quintessential New York rap song, unlike anything we've seen since really Bobby Shmurda back in like 2014. So that song will never go away. That was, really huge, and Pop Smoke was really embraced early on as a new star from New York, and in kind of shades of the way 50 Cent came up back in the day. And the sky really did seem to be the limit because he continued to make hit after hit. Dior was really big. Off the Jack Boys EP from Travis Scott and crew. Not great, but the biggest song off that's Gotti, which is really just a Pop Smoke song with the Travis verse. And he had his new tape just came out, Meet the Woo 2, and Shake the Room with Quavo, another banger off that. You really felt like Pop Smoke was going to keep taking over, and it's just sad to see him lost, and in particular, it's frustrating because he was the face of this new wave in New York City, this Brooklyn drill wave, which is, I think, kind of an interesting subgenre because it's influenced by, obviously, the drill we know of Chicago from about a decade ago now that we've talked about before for its influence back over in the UK. And, seeing a new area really embrace drill to its full potential like they are doing in Brooklyn right now. Pop Smoke was the biggest face of that. And, that wave will still continue. We still got Chef G and 22Gs and some other guys, but Pop Smoke was the biggest and brightest of them to this point. And it's just freaking lame that he just got murdered off seemingly being irresponsible on social media and letting some people figure out where he was. And he's supposed to have made it out already. He was fucking in the hills in Hollywood, and he died. So it sucks.
Yeah, and it feels like we're talking about this more and more frequently. I mean, probably within the last 2 years, we've talked about 4 or 5, maybe even 6 major deaths in the rap community.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, and I think hopefully, at least for Pop Smoke's case, people just take it just to carry yourself more responsibly, because you feel like, who's the last person to be murdered that was really high profile? I think that was XXXTentacion.
Juice WRLD?
Well, he wasn't murdered though. If you discount the guys who were lost to drugs, That seemed kind of like kind of fluky. Like he just kind of got killed in a parking lot in his car, right? Like,
Mhm.
but Pop Smoke literally died from a home invasion where they knew exactly where to find him. So you hope people take this as a lesson to just know how to keep carrying themselves no matter where they are.
Terrible.
Yep.
Why don't we move on? Talk about some more rap. Stay in the rap genre. Kamaiyah got it made, dropping her first album in I think it's 3 years.
Yep.
2017's was the last time she was heard from, at least in the album range.
Mm-hmm.
Did we review that one? I don't remember.
We did not. Yeah, she dropped Before I Wake at the end of 2017. It was her second mixtape. We did not talk about that. It was pretty cool. It's slickly produced. The song Slide Bet was probably the best one, but yeah, we kind of passed over that. And then we also didn't talk about her debut mixtape, which got a lot more attention, which was A Good Night in the Ghetto. That was back in 2016. So yeah, it's the first time talking about her because I think is as she would tell you, she's kind of had a bunch of like stops and starts since that really big first mixtape and like some early looks she had. And she releases independently. I think the Interscope deal is done. And it's kind of, I think this is kind of representing a back to the basics feel for Kamaiyah. And I think it was a good choice because I think this shit slaps. There's some Bay Area bounce, man.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised listening to it. Didn't have many expectations heading in, but I really liked how there was a bounce to it, but it didn't feel overly produced. It felt like it had some real 90s elements, some like real traditional like record scratches and flourishes throughout, which I really liked. But it never felt like too glitzy or like they threw too much in there. They really let her her personality really shine throughout. I think her personality is probably the other thing I walked away from with this is she's funny. Like she has a strong perspective, a strong personality that really I think allows her to switch between these songs where she's maybe a little bit more serious or talking about some of her own life obstacles or things she's going through, but then kind of doing something like I don't know 1-800 I'm horny or like 10 toes up high, so there's some good shit on here. What did you like most about it?
Yeah, dude. I mean, thinking back to A Good Night in the Ghetto, her two big hits off that, How Does It Feel and Fuck It Up featuring YG. I remember when I first heard those, I was like, Kamaiyah is awesome. Like we talk about all the rising female rap stars these days, and Kamaiyah was one I think who's never became like a star. She never really got famous. She was an XXL freshman in 2017, which I thought was a great pick. Yet, despite the Interscope support at the time, it just didn't land. And I think this is really cool because she has zero qualms about attempting to do anything with modern rap trends at all. And she's just making something that's indebted to where she's from, Oakland, and just sound like that and make something that's really cool and timeless. And that's what she did. Like we already knew she had good personality. She's funny. And now that we have this where she just feels more comfortable, more at home on these kind of beats and making these and bounced around on these songs. But I think she's more open about her sexuality now, and you hear a little bit more of that on this. And this is a short listen too, but I mean, there's really no songs I would cut off this, to be honest, partially given the breadth of the runtime. But yeah, I mean, there's also some inspired people on here. Right, you have Trina, you have Too Short doing some kind of intro. Again, no Travis, no Quavo on this. It's I think this is a really good way to reestablish oneself. And Kamaiyah's apparently made a record label, and she put this out on that. So I'm hoping this is the new start of another fruitful career, and hopefully she becomes a bigger force out of the Bay, because I think this is definitely something people should check in. And even if they haven't listened to Kamaiyah before, this is you'll get the idea real fast.
Yeah, I think that when you kind of look around at her peers, there's people that do some of the things she does on here better or in different ways. Like I find some of Cupcake's songs a little bit funnier, or maybe
Sure.
I enjoy those a little bit more, or Tierra Whack maybe does like the weirdness factor a little bit better. But I think overall just a really solid album start to finish. And I think especially in what you said with the artist who's kind of started, stopped, been on a record label, deals dead or done now, to be starting her own label, to be putting out what she wants, working with people she wants, bringing her own sound, her own personality to it, I think is just fantastic. So seems like this is another up and coming rapper, and especially a female rapper that seems like they're on the way up. So very excited to hear more from her, hopefully soon. Someone else that we are getting only their second feature album, and this is only part one of it, is Moses Sumney with Gray Part 1. And part 2 is going to be dropping a couple of months, May 15th. So we'll be talking about that. It's going to be 20 songs. So we got a little over half of them. It's a 12-song debut. And I don't know if we reviewed Aromanticism when it came out.
Did not.
But, you know, it's an album that I found myself listening to every once in a while. And really impressive debut. He established himself as a very unique R&B singer-songwriter who really does bend genres from singer-songwriter. I think that's why maybe that label fits him better than just like R&B artist. He has this like incredibly distinct voice, this incredibly distinct perspective, and Aromanticism, I think, especially focuses on what it talks about, like romance, but also just like self-discovery, self-growth. It was a really impressive debut for me. Did you get a chance to listen to it prior to Part 1?
Yeah, I caught up on that a few years ago. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I think most, and these thoughts continue for this new run with Gray, but he's just a really unique singer-songwriter. As you said, it's kind of hard to compare him to other people because he's so comfortable just bouncing around. I think a big part of that is not just the kind of the sound he does, but also what he does with his voice from song to song is just kind of variable. You know, he's very happy and willing to change his delivery, and you know, whether that's the pitch or the speed, you know, it really does change a lot. So it's kind of hard to put him in a box song to song, and that's kind of how I felt because he released, I think, 4 singles from this first part of the double album already, Cut Me and a few other ones, and yeah, you just listen and it's like, yeah, this sounds like another Moses Sumney song. And as singles, they're kind of hard to digest, I think, until you kind of get what he's going for. And I guess in a sense, because this is only the first half of something, it's maybe foolish to try and get what he's going for now either. But you know, the talks of like ambiguity, and there's some talk about like gender identity and stuff. And there's even I think it's an unexpected like narration section on this on one of the songs towards the end. But yeah, Moses Sumney, definitely just a talent, really cool person to follow, and it's to do something as ambitious as a double album that you're going to announce as 2 distinct parts. I think is pretty cool in general.
Yeah, and for your second album, I think it's clear he's incredibly ambitious. I mean, just kind of to give a general sense of some of the genres that he goes through on here. I mean, there's definitely classically inspired songs on here. Like there's some chamber pop, definitely more like Bowie-esque, like art rock on here too.
Yeah.
He has some jazz, acoustic, like it really goes all over the place. And you mentioned a great point, which I wanted to bring up. Where I really see the growth for him, because I think his songwriting and aromanticism is also really, really good, and he does a great job here, I think, crafting songs in a very interesting way. But I hear him using his voice, because he's mostly falsetto, right? He's known for like that very high, almost like can go toe to toe with Frank Ocean, probably voice wise, in terms of distinctness and the level of range. But he goes low in a couple of the songs here, and it really I think it really adds an element. And it almost, I had to check the track because I thought maybe he had a guest singer on the track, that it was just so different than anything I really heard in Aromanticism. I really thought that was very impressive. I'm also, I think, just kind of blown away by his ability to, like, I think you said this, craft a cohesive project that's so unique sounding from song to song, but seems to still flow really well. And I'm really interested to see how Great Part 2 kind of fits in with the rest of these songs, because you talked about a lot of different themes on here, and I think this works great as just its own album. So to hear how he expands on this in a couple of months, I'm definitely very intrigued. This is definitely up there for me with Tame for one of my favorite early albums of the year. So we'll see come May 15th. Any last thoughts on Moses Sumney?
Definitely has few contemporaries right now, so you want to be checking this out. He's talented. He's good.
Check him. King Krule. Should people be checking this man out?
I'm not as into King Krule personally. That's just my taste. He's a guy who I've checked out before. He's actually pretty lauded and experienced, right? He's only like 25, but this is his fourth record, I think. So he's been around a while, and more importantly, I guess he's been like popping on like in indie rock internet for a while, right?
Yeah.
Like he's people have just known him for a while. Howard G. Marshall out of the UK. So yeah. I always found him interesting, like his cult personality and all that. But the music isn't really not my style, so rarely does it jump out to me. But yeah, interesting career,
and also highly lauded. His albums get a lot of acclaim within the indie rock community. Yeah, the Ooze especially, which I think we actually talked about. You can probably check that out a couple of years back. I compared him to you in a text to like the Earl Sweatshirt of the indie rock world, because he has such a, like, when I think about Earl, I don't think about, I can't really name anybody who does what he does exactly. The way he has like such a distinct sound, it's so like chopped, lo-fi,
right,
almost kind of like intentionally jarring at points. And when I think about King Krule, I kind of think the same way. He delivers his songs in very specific ways. I actually think this is the first album where I found myself feeling like songs were crafted the same way. So I don't know if this was maybe just not his best showing, but his voice is so distinct. His flourishes feel unique only to him throughout the album. So I kind of see them similarly. What do you think about that comparison?
I guess one thing I would think about is what is King Krule's standing and status within the rock community, like with his contemporaries? Do they like? I feel like
know that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either. I feel like rockers, especially like rockers that are not like 10 years in the game or anything, I feel like they all kind of exist independent of each other due to the way rock is treated and consumed these days. Whereas Earl, I think Earl is kind of widely just thought of in rap by his contemporaries as one of the greats, in his generation. Whereas I just don't know if that applies, because that's just not how rock works these days. But it's interesting, because I also can't think of someone who really sounds like this dude, which is pretty impressive for someone who's as young as he is. Like, he started getting attention when he was still a teenager.
Yeah, and especially when we talk about rock, and especially indie rock, where the genre keeps going, I think we oftentimes find ourselves feeling like there's just a lot of copycats, or there's not really anything unique about the artists that are coming out. And with him, I mean, like you said, there's nothing that sounds like him. There's heavy jazz and like brass influence throughout this, kind of overtones of like strong, thick basses with these like airy jazz and like infused elements. It's just very unique. I don't always find it totally jiving with me and being my style, but I definitely respect it. And I think that's the thing I see with Earl, is like, even the songs that jar me with Earl, like, I know this shit is like high quality. It's crafted beautifully. That's the same thing. I don't always like love King Krule, but I respect it. And I guess kind of bringing us to this album, Man Alive, there were some songs I really liked on here, and some moments I was like, okay, gotta get to the next song. I can't take this one anymore. How about you?
Yeah, of course. It's post-punk, some avant-garde ass shit at the end of the day, you know. But sometimes there's moments where it's like, oh, wait a minute, like on Comet Face for me, which is like, wow, this is much more lively, which is interesting because the subject matter of this is very dark, where it's about him getting like, was it getting mugged or something, getting fucked up, right? And it's like, yeah, damn, all right. But I actually think this song sounds really nice. So interesting juxtaposition there, I guess. But yeah, a lot of times, at least for me, for my style, it's just more like his vocals are just kind of intentionally like low register, and he's just kind of like mellowing out with the guitar, and it's like, all right, I get it, I get what this is going for, but I don't usually listen to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Common Face stood out to me. I really liked Alone, Omen 3 a lot too, and then Stoned Again. I thought that song went really hard. Just that like dark marbled mouth shit I like to
Right, yeah.
hear.
His voice is
Um,
just so unique too, like the way he sounds. You
yeah,
know,
and the way he looks, he's just a unique artist. And
Yeah.
he arranges all this except for the saxophone, which is also very interesting. He's similar to like you mentioned Tame Impala earlier, Kevin Parker or James Murphy or anyone like in that ilk who
right.
arranges it all and then they perform it live with artists. Interesting to see where he'll go because apparently this was written and pretty much all made right before he found out he was going to be a father. And
Right.
so I'm wondering if his what he writes about, which is usually some pretty dark shit, like you alluded to before, will change a little bit moving forward. We'll see. But King Krule still producing that quality indie rock, however you want to define it.
Yeah. Jazz fusion.
Jazz
It's a lot of
fusion.
stuff.
I like that. How would you define Grimes?
Wow. Grimes. Speaking of avant-garde shit, man. Grimes is really interesting to me because she's someone that I've most cases and this is her 5th album, so she has a lot of material out there. Most of the time, it's not really for me because it's intentionally like talking in tongues. Like there's the lyrics are intentionally so minimalist and just trying to blend into the production that I just can't get into it, And I feel like it was really funny because her last album prior to this, Art Angels, back in 2015, it's been a minute. Art Angels I was like, oh wait a minute, this is Grimes doing her weird shit, but actually trying to be poppy. And she's like she's actually delivering like tangible words this time. And I thought it sounded dope. There's some really awesome songs now, like California, some other ones. Got a feature with Janelle Monáe on there. And this one, I think, there's some times where she's still talking in tongues on this, but there's some other times where it's like, all right, cool, I get it, what you're going for. She's talking, she wanted to bring climate change as a message. That's the Miss Anthropocene, the combining Anthropocene with misanthrope. It's a cool way to combine for the titles and all that. So yeah, that's my roundabout way of saying Grimes makes some weird shit, and I haven't been down with all the old stuff, but this one's interesting.
It's definitely interesting. Verbal meme. So it's like the brain where it then has like the lights coming out of it, and then like the next one it's like even more lights. I feel like it's
brain.
I feel like it's starts with like, I don't know, maybe it's Janelle Monáe who's like the first one, and it's like current like high art pop, and then the next one is Charlie XCX future art pop. And it's like Galaxy Brain is like Grimes, like alien like art pop or some shit like that. Like it's just so like
perfect.
It's just like a ridiculous. I don't even know how you conceptualize this. Like I would love to be able to sit down and like just talk to her and like explore where her like creative process starts. It seems like she maybe starts with the concept and then it's just like, what would this look like in 3,000 years? Like, I don't know. But
yeah.
I feel like Miss Anthropocene actually is almost kind of like a play a little bit, because she has like 4 or 5 songs on here that are like long, 5+ minutes, pretty epic, and then there's like 2 or 3 in between that are like a minute and a half, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, like shorter, quicker songs that get her to these like epics, and it feels a bit like performative in that sense, which I actually kind of like.
Sure. Yeah. Apparently she's also a fan of DC Comics, song named Dark Side, song named New Gods.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. DC needs all the help it can get.
That's right.
But any songs on here that really stood out to you or that you enjoyed?
Sure, yeah. So I liked a few of these. I just because of the sound, I don't like this as much as Art Angels. I still think that's my favorite of hers, but I do appreciate that it's once again something that is crafted to like her vision, and I respect that because she's making shit that's so out there and so vibey at the end of the day. And in this case, yeah, I think Delete Forever stood out to me because she's on a fucking banjo on this. Just randomly, like, I listened to a lot of
Yeah.
Grimes this weekend, and then I hear a banjo for the first time. I'm like, where the fuck did this come from? And apparently she wrote that song the night Little Peep OD'd several years ago. Interesting
Interesting.
story there. I also liked You'll Miss Me When I'm Not Around. Where's that one? Oh, My Name is Dark. Yeah, there's some cool shit on here.
I
But
liked.
it's you got to be in the right, I think, headspace to listen to this because I feel like you just kind of got to like fall into it because there's not like much tangible lyrics that you can like latch onto. So you just kind of got to fall and go with it.
Yeah. I feel like My Name is Dark. I actually wrote down I need future drugs for this, like just things that aren't even created yet, because it's
Right.
so high concept, but also sounds really great, just like some dark pop kind of stuff, almost like Billie Eilish, but more poppy. Um, I really liked for as this 4 a.m. like AIM. I don't know how to pronounce that,
Yeah,
but
something like
uh,
that.
that actually kind of reminded me of Santa Gold a little bit. Had that like
Ooh.
Middle Eastern vibe to it. I don't know, just really. I thought that was a very pleasurable song to listen to. And then the closer, Idoru, I do, I don't know,
Mhm.
but much more upbeat and optimistic sounding than the rest of the album. That one really stood out to me. Really, the whole thing through and through is quality. I think it's just like how accessible is this to you? And she's definitely, like you said, she definitely is going for more of like a poppy sound. I think this is a little bit less poppy than the last record,
Mhm.
um, but certainly still more digestible than some of the earlier stuff. So
Definitely.
um, I think this is a good list, and we'll be adding some of these songs to our playlist. Any last thoughts on Grimes, though?
Kind of like Moses Sumney. I was thinking about this a lot this weekend. Who are Grimes' peers right now?
Charlie, maybe.
I'm just trying to think like people that do something like she does. Like I guess Charlie from like an energy perspective and a music approach, but like who makes this shit this far out there that's like in the pop realm at all? I
I
don't know
I think
because
maybe,
she's pretty famous now, you know?
yeah. The only one I can really think of is FKA Twigs, who I think
Yeah,
is like
that's a good one.
similar, but it's not even quite to that level, but more palatable.
Yeah,
Um,
one
yeah,
on one for sure.
yeah, and I appreciate these one-on-ones. We had three of them in a row, and all to varying degrees of excellence, which is great that they're all good. BTS Map of the Soul 7, though, is this good, Dave? Is this good pop
I
music?
I did think this was good. Long, lot of songs, probably too many, definitely too many, but there's a lot of I think BTS at their strengths on this fourth full length Korean album from the biggest band in the world.
And we did review a couple of the songs on here. What, five? I think of the,
Yep,
you said five of the seven,
five of the seven from the EP last year, Map of the Soul Persona. They liked
including
all of them so much they brought them back again.
um and some of these songs are really good, like Intro Persona, which I actually think we put on the one last year. Sounds like a Beastie Boys knockoff, but it's fucking great. And I liked a lot of the new songs too. I think that there's some very uh like you said, some very BTS like songs. They definitely are making songs for for like Anthem Stadium tours,
Yep,
but
selling
can't
those
blame
shits
them.
out. Yeah.
Get your money. Um,
Well, they're getting it.
yeah.
Don't you worry. These guys are fucking rich as hell now.
Yeah. And they're becoming just more and more ingrained into American popular culture and also world popular culture at this point. So it seems like you liked this album. What did you like about it so much?
Uh, yeah. I mean, just thinking about it, I think we first talked about BTS at the end of 2018, and that was 2018 was when they really started to make real, true inroads here in the U.S. and have since become the most successful Korean act in the Western world ever.
Mm-hmm.
Just thinking like last year they're on SNL, which is a big landmark moment. They performed a little bit at the Grammys, as part of Lil
Mm-hmm.
Nas X's medley. And they've been in the Grammys a few times now. So just like kind of, witnessing the meteoric and continued rise of BTS again, I think something we always like to point out and think about is at the end of the day, it's about the records, right? That's what matters. That's what lasts. And BTS has already had a lot of good stuff, partially because they've made so much music over the years. I think even like their diehard army stans would tell you that they've gotten a lot better throughout the years. So what do we want from BTS now when they're already so big, so successful, and basically hit every milestone they can? You know, I think this will be their fourth number one when this does like 300,000 or whatever it's going to do first week. Like,
crazy.
They're doing everything they can, right? So what do we want for them? Because soon they're going to have to do their required military service that is required of all South Koreans. So like all K-pop acts, they will have to go on a hiatus, whether they like it or not. That's coming up. I'm not sure how soon it is, but everyone's talking about it. And I think for this, Map of the Soul 7, I just want to hear BTS, I think, just kind of do more of the versatility, because they make so many different kinds of songs, right? They have the kind of the pure rap songs, which are bangers. They have the stuff that's really electronic, right? Like think of like one of their big hits, Mic Drop, has that Stevie Aoki remix, right? And then they also do a lot of the ballads. I mean, there's 7 of these dudes. They all have their different strengths. I think what was cool on this is and obviously I don't speak Korean, neither do you, so I can't really connect with the lyrics, and also I don't understand, the sentiment a lot, but I can get the vibe. And I think I'm starting to recognize more of the voices in the group. Still don't know them all, but on this, I think seeing everyone get like different moments to shine and go to their strengths, I think was really cool to me. Like someone who like Suga in particular, he had that moment on Halsey's album. On this album, they do a lot of solo tracks, which I think was a really cool choice. And they're also bringing in more outside people. Like I think one of my favorite songs on this, so there's a lot of songs. I really need to listen a few more times, just because there's so much to digest, and because they make different kinds of songs, you kind of lose track of some. But I think one of my favorites, one of the strongest ones, is Louder Than Bombs, which is actually like a ballad song. Yep. That's notably co-written with Troye Sivan, of all people.
I was going to say
that was cool. Yeah, I thought that song was really, really successful, because even though I don't actually understand exactly what they're saying, I totally get what vibe and energy they're going for as like a sad song, and that's going to kill it in the slower moments on the arena tour.
Yeah.
So even though it's long, like I think there's a lot of like great moments that you want from like modern leveled up BTS at the top of their powers.
Yeah, and I mean. Yeah, I think when especially as these guys are thinking about this hiatus coming up and just getting that money, they're gonna make songs for the live acts. They sell out MSG every single time, multiple shows. They sell out stadiums when they do them, multiple shows. It's the demand for them is insane right now, and they're all incredibly talented. I don't really think there's many bad tracks I've heard from them in listening, and like you said, we don't know what they're saying half the time, so that they could be saying stuff and it doesn't make any sense, and we're like, okay, well, these lyrics could be better, but overall,
you know what I started doing? It's really good help. Turn on closed captioning on YouTube and put on their videos, or just put on like the tracks, and you can just read it along at the pace that they're rapping or singing. And I was like, this is what people do all the time. I just don't really do this that often.
Yeah.
so I did it for a little bit, and I was like, oh wow, okay, yeah, okay, cool, yeah. This is as we all expect. This is a coherent ass song. How about that? It's almost like music is international. Who would have
thought? Yeah. Overall, this is good, and overall, BTS is a monster. They're just what biggest act in the world right now? Would you say?
I think that's certainly right there. Who in terms of boy bands, obviously the biggest. Korean acts, Asian acts, obviously the biggest. Pop group. Who is bigger than these guys in terms of consistent demand, output, quality too? Like I can't say. I mean, they did this last year. It hasn't stopped yet. Like they have the record for the most viewed YouTube video in the first 24 hours with Boy With Love, the Halsey track.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 67 million or whatever it is. It's absurd. They set
Yeah.
that mark a year ago. It hasn't been broken. And they set the mark beforehand with, was it a Fake Love or whatever? So
it's probably like T Swift, Beyonce, them, Bieber, maybe?
I think, I think they're bigger than Beyonce.
Crazy.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think, like, does Beyonce have quite the international, worldwide appeal as some of the other people? I'm trying to remember.
I don't know.
You know, I think that's kind of the key. Like, we have people and like, obviously, like think of like status in the U.S., we're just going to default people that are a little more established, like Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, you can look at some of the stats too in terms of like demand for ticket sales and the pace and volume of the resale market for their tours. But like, they compete and do bigger than people like Ariana, you know, who another person is kind of at the top of the game. So, yeah, I think, I mean, in terms of like biggest band, like call a pop band, a boy band, but biggest band, biggest group. I mean,
don't think it's even close.
No, it's not. I mean, like I think some legacy bands, rock bands, might like make more money on their tours because they just kind of pull in bigger fees.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's got to be BTS, man. It's wild. It's cool. Like, I think we talked about this before, but like, they haven't made any concessions with who they are, what they do, and they just got accepted and in the Western world. And that's awesome, and that's what we want. And we're seeing that more from Latin music, although Latin music is not being as concession-free as someone like BTS. I think there's still room for that, more growth there. But yeah, with BTS, man, they just they are who they are, and it's working over here too. And that's pretty great to see, because that was not the case, and no one thought that could happen. So just trend setting, you know. Did you have any other songs that stood out to you? Soul 7.
Let's
so
see.
many to pick from, of course.
I thought Moon was very upbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. On, I thought was made to be a stadium anthem.
Video's fucking sick, by the way.
I didn't check it out.
Yeah. They're so talented as dancers, and the choreography they do is so intricate. You know, I just can't help but be impressed with that.
Those are the main ones for me. What about for you?
I also really liked Ugh. That's just a straight rap banger. I love listening to RM just be like, I'm talented as fuck. Here's how. You know, that was cool. It's kind of like trap. They're talking about it as a trap song, which I thought was funny. And there's actually a moment of that where I was like, wait a minute, that reminds me of Danny Brown of all people. Never thought I'd get that vibe from BTS. So that was cool. I also really like outro : ego towards the end. There's like that narration section at the beginning of that track. Thought that was cool. The lead single of this, in terms of new tracks that weren't previously released, was Black Swan. Came out, I think, January. I thought that one was like a little underwhelming. I think Black Swan's a song you point to, and that's kind of like when, because they're so successful, have so much output, been doing this for so long, like 7 years or whatever. A song like Black Swan, like, all right, yeah, you've done that before and you've done it better. Mm-hmm. So songs like that, you know, they kind of feel like they lack purpose or urgency to see, because they're just not as good as stuff in a similar vein. So I think that's kind of like we're like that's like what a weak moment is for BTS right now, which I guess is also high praise, because it's all relative.
Pretty good. Yeah, it's still pretty good. BTS, Map of the Soul 7. It's good. BTS, good. Dave, something that's not good, I just want to talk about real quick. Pat's Movie Corner. Last thing he wanted.
I wanted to see it, man. I just didn't get to it yet. I will watch it in solidarity with you. A movie that, you know, thinking about it, we talked about this last year. We thought Last Thing He Wanted would be good because it's Dee Reese's follow-up to Mudbound, a movie that's amazing.
Mudbound's really good.
An Oscar contender. And this one also has a big cast. It's Dee Reese's Netflix once again. They saved it for Sundance this year. It's been done for a while. We were hyped, and apparently it's trash. And I'd like to hear why. I haven't seen it yet, so obviously I don't give a shit about spoilers now.
Yeah, I won't. I'll wait till you see, I guess, to talk super spoilers. But the thing is, I can't spoil this movie too much because it's really the plot is unintelligible. Like it
I
is
see.
just the one of the worst crafted, worst told stories I've ever seen on film. And like you said, great cast. You have Anne Hathaway, yeah, Ben Affleck, Willem Dafoe, Rosie Perez, some high quality people, and for
Hitters.
the most part, they're pretty good. Ben Affleck just seems like he showed up and was like, okay, just give me my check. Like he was just like very just like charmless, didn't
When do I
even
leave set? Okay, cool.
yeah, exactly. Didn't even give a shit. He probably walked right off of what was the other Netflix movie last year? Not Six Underground. He was the one with Charlie Hunnam and
Oh, Triple Frontier
yeah, he probably like walked off Triple Frontier, shaved his beard, and just did this. Like this
came back
is
to life.
yep, exactly. Um, and man, it just felt like beyond the fact I couldn't really even follow what was happening, it just felt super boring. Like
Hmm,
they
that's
have
a
all the
problem.
pieces of things that you want in this sort of movie. It should have been a thriller, right? You have Anne Hathaway as this journalist who's all following the South American beat, and mostly like all like the arms dealing and drug dealing going on down there, kind of like a crime reporter, so to speak, for down there. And she gets moved off of it and onto following the Reagan reelection campaign because the newspaper needed her to, the fake newspaper, the Atlantic Journal Post or whatever it is. And
Ah, wow. Really,
it,
really trying hard for that name.
yeah, well, it's funny because
Should
this is
add
based,
Tribune,
yeah, this is based on a book by Joan Didion, and in
right?
it the character just is for the Washington Post. So they must not have been able to clear the rights for that for whatever reason, which is
Hmm.
interesting. Maybe the Washington Post saw this and was like, "Do not put our name to this, please." I wouldn't knock them for it all. And her dad is Willem Dafoe, a drug runner in the early stages of dementia. And $500,000 in debt. So $500,000 in debt, needs to have this one amazing deal that kind of came out of the sky go through so he can get out of his debt. Get sick, and in order to still get the money, Anne Hathaway has to go down and basically do this arms deal for him. And man, I cannot really point you to a scene where I was super intrigued, except for probably the ending, which I won't spoil too much, but it's just like it's I think the ending is predictable, but I still think the way that they show it is like kind of like shocking. Like you don't expect it to
Hmm.
happen exactly when it happens, I don't think. And kind of like the twist to it, I think, is still somewhat interesting, but they they just like throw in scenes with Anne Hathaway and her daughter, which is actually probably some of the most interesting stuff. She is a divorced mom. The whole relationship with her daughter is through the phone because she's constantly traveling.
Hmm.
Um, the girl who plays the daughter plays it totally monotone, which I mean it's a child, so judge their performance accordingly. But just did not find that convincing at all. And I felt like that could have gone somewhere. They kind of flip back to Rosie Perez every once in a while as like her sidekick in this, but it just kind of takes me even further out of the movie. Even though I think Rosie Perez is actually good in this. And yeah, I mean, I guess even to like just like take it one step further, it felt like there wasn't really much of a plan. Like, right, so the plot's already a mess, but it just felt like they shot things from all these different angles. There was a lot of like cutting and piecing
Hmm.
together, and it just didn't feel like it was intentional. Just kind of like they wanted to like
Right.
be very showy, like look at this like crane scene like shot that we have,
All
or
right.
look at this drone shot. But like, did any of it actually make sense? There's just one scene that I remember very vividly where they show Anne Hathaway entering this room, and she has this really cool lighting, and they shoot it from the ground, and she walks in, and like, it cuts like 1 second later, and it's like a very like it was very off-putting to me because I was like, that was a cool shot, and then we go right back to a very traditional shot, and I don't really even know what the point of that like down like
Huh.
low
Wow.
shot was, and I was just kind of like, this feels like a whole mess in every sense of the word. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts whenever you get to it. I wouldn't say put it at the top of your movie list unless you don't have much to watch right now,
No,
but
gotta watch it
um,
now. You can't let these things pile up.
yeah, you don't want to be like saving this for your dessert. Why don't we move on to TV? Don't watch The Last Thing He Wanted, but do watch Clone Wars, which is back.
Yeah, it is. Let's go, baby.
Did you watch
Clone Wars.
the original when it came out?
How dare you besmirch my honor like that? Of course I did. Clone Wars, The Clone Wars, Star Wars, The Clone Wars. 6 seasons in the bag already. Started back in 2008 on Cartoon Network. And then those first 5 seasons had wrapped by early 2013. At that point, Lucasfilm had been bought by Disney, as we all know at this point, unfortunately. And then they're like, all right, we're gonna wind down Clone Wars now. And everyone's like, no, fuck that. They gave us one last abbreviated season 6, called The Lost Missions, that came out in 2014 on Netflix, of all places. And Clone Wars for a while lived on Netflix until it just moved to Disney Plus. You can watch the whole thing. Disney Plus now, it's 121, now 122 episodes. And the 7th season was announced back in 2018 at Celebration. Clone Wars Saves, big moment. And it's going to premiere week to week with 12 final episodes and ending on May 8th this year.
Great day.
That's right. The Ocho. I have several friends born on May 8th. It's kind of weird. And it's funny because Clone Wars coming back and then being put to bed for good is very different than The Mandalorian, right? Because Clone Wars is truly a love letter to the fans. This is prequel era shit. The 7th season of something at that's really beloved by a certain group of people because it's good. It's a good quality show. Mandalorian, you didn't really need to know the deep inner workings of the lore to appreciate that. And it also, of course, gave us something like Baby Yoda, became the meme of the year and a bona fide hit and a prestige show in its own regard. So they're really serving 2 different masters with those shows. So for me, it's just cool to see Lucasfilm, now under Disney, have the wherewithal to be like, you know what? Let's finish Clone Wars. No real reason. We don't really need to do this, but let's do it anyway because we like Dave Filoni and he's one of our good soldiers. And this is, of course, where Dave Filoni cut his teeth and made his name, and of course now moved on to work on The Mandalorian. And I think Clone Wars, a lot of people maybe found out about this later. This is where Darth Maul came back to life and back into our hearts several years ago before Solo. Of course, only the real ones knew that at the time. That is what it is. And Clone Wars is cool because it's just it's probably the best way to engage with the prequel story and like those themes and ideas that George Lucas had that were good and cool, if not executed on particularly well with the prequel films. This is the best version of Anakin Skywalker. This really makes you connect with the character and you understand how more layered and troubled he was because we're not beholden and bogged down by the really poor dialogue that held back Hayden Christensen. And Hayden, of course, didn't really do himself any favors with his acting, as we all know.
I hate you.
Hate sand. It gets fucking everywhere, man. This is where we get the dark saber that Giancarlo Esposito wields in the end of the Mandalorian finale. Lots of Mandalore stuff in general. It's some of the best material in Clone Wars. And for me, I just as a show, it's like 3D animated CGI. I think the animation quality is pretty cool and it looks really good now. But it's a 20 minute episodes. Ultimately, it's a children's show. It's for kids. But I think what was cool and what everyone's been saying for years is that after the first season and a half, Clone Wars actually became a lot more adult and has some really dark moments. And there's ultimately just a lot of really cool stuff on here. And I'm just excited to see how far we go with these final episodes. Because, a lot of stuff we already know. Obviously, this is before Revenge of the Sith. Some characters pop back up in Star Wars Rebels, like Ahsoka. So we know the fate of some of these people. But it's suggested in the trailer that we might be getting events in and around Revenge of the Sith itself. And that's a really tantalizing prospect because I think everyone accepts that Revenge is the best of the prequel movies and has a lot of good moments. And to see that kind of stuff, the endgame stuff, portrayed again from other angles and even fleshed out a little bit, that's a really tantalizing prospect to me. So I'm excited that this is going to be week to week as well. Just kind of brings me back to watching the show week to week back in the day. So Clone Wars, if you haven't watched it, honestly, you could just watch it now. Like, you don't have to worry about knowing everything. It's not one of those things. You know who Anakin and Obi-Wan are at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool. One of the other, I think, great creations of Clone Wars was that the clones had personality and character, and they weren't just mindless cannon fodder as they've been in the movies. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you're at all interested, just pop in, because it's something that's made with a lot of care, which unfortunately we didn't feel as much about something like Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to check it out, but I do want to watch all of the other ones beforehand, because I've heard great things from pretty much everybody that's seen them. So definitely
you can bang them out. It's not the most arduous watch.
But Dave, there's so much TV to watch.
Never ends.
Including Better Call Saul came back for what season? Is this season 5 or 6 now?
5.
Yeah.
And we know we're getting a 6th and final season as well. So not the penultimate season.
The penultimate season of Saul. And we talked about Vince Gilligan's, I guess this is a prequel show to Breaking Bad, which will end up also being a sequel show, from all indications.
That's right. Shout out to Black and White shit.
And it's, I think when we talk about it, where we're really left with Saul is, I mean, it's incredibly high quality. It's Breaking Bad level. Some people might even argue it's better than Breaking Bad, which
I think about that a lot now, actually.
Do you think it's up there?
I think it depends what you're thinking about, but like Better Call Saul's writing is just so tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
And like Breaking Bad, it's hard not to marvel at the meticulous construction of like narrative arc and just narrative in general that Gilligan displays us once again. So yeah, in a lot of ways it might be better because it's kind of just continuation of that amazing thing we already loved,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in terms of like entertaining story, probably Breaking Bad.
Sure.
But in terms of
not as pulpy as Breaking Bad was, that it's more action climactic moments.
Yeah,
no doubt about that.
It feels a little more David Simon to me, Saul, I guess. Just in terms of like building out characters, building out world. The moments the highs aren't as high, but
the institutional decay of Albuquerque, a David Simon story.
And it's interesting in thinking about both Saul and Breaking Bad. I feel like these two shows really rest on the female leads in terms of like how the show hits emotionally. Anna Gunn in Breaking Bad, for as much as people were annoyed with Skylar, I think, and just kind of wanted her to, lay off Walt and just kind of stop being such a nag. She really did bring the emotional hammer. It was kind of like the avatar for the audience.
Breaking Bad without Skylar.
Right. And Rhea Seehorn fucking brings it every single episode in Saul. But
still gets overlooked by the Emmys. Fucking terrible.
Which is like crazy that she has not been nominated. But many great people, great actors not get nominated. So anyways, her as was it Kim in this?
Kim Wexler.
Really impressive and drives home the I think what we're all watching, which is the deterioration of the humanity of Jimmy McGill into Saul Goodman into, what was his name at the beginning of this one? Was it like Victor Tedic?
Oh yeah, I forget the third name still.
Hold on, I wrote it down here. It was Gene Tukovic.
That's right.
Yeah, and that the scene at the end of this premiere, I think, is what she does so well, because it's just like a silent, defeated, like dive into the pain of seeing this person you care about so much and you fight for so much becoming someone that you can't fight for anymore, that you don't want to fight for anymore. And that's really what the show has devolved into in such a beautiful way. And there's a lot of other cool shit going on. I think the stuff between Mike and Gus is really interesting, and I'm interested to see how they kind of resolve that between them, and also just resolve the the other cartel stuff going on, which obviously is going to be a big factor leading into how Saul gets roped into all of that kind of stuff. But really, the Saul Kim relationship is just fantastic. How are you feeling about this season premiere and just kind of where this season is going in general?
Yeah, well, I think it kind of just continues, echoes my thoughts at the end of season 4, where there's some real narrative forward momentum. Not that we haven't had that, but now Jimmy is using the Saul Goodman name, something we've just been waiting to see happen. And this transition that's about to happen, and what we all have known for some time, the fallout between Kim and Jimmy is coming. Mm-hmm. And just waiting to see what that is, because it's going to be delivered with amazing acting and writing. It's just really exciting because we're here, and as from last season, Gus is a part of this story, and how Jimmy Saul is going to get more indoctrinated with Gus, and here comes the downfall, in a certain sense, the downfall of Jimmy. So yeah, that's all I care about right now. And of course, what's Nacho's here too, mm-hmm. So the whole greater universe of Breaking Bad is well established at this point at Better Call Saul. So it's it's awesome, and I think honestly the show is somehow underrated still. Can't believe I'm saying that, but people don't talk about it as much as they should.
Well, and I think that kind of brings me back to the Simon comparison. I mean, how many David Simon shows, we just talked about The Deuce, that go kind of flying under the radar because they don't bring you the emotional highs, or the lows. It's just a very solid, consistent movie. It's the I don't know, the baseball. What would the baseball equivalent be of a show like this? Like a pitcher that gets 16 wins a year with a 3.40 ERA for 15 seasons.
Sure, Mike Mussina.
Yeah, there you go. Seriously, just incredibly solid, inconsistent. But maybe you're not gonna turn it on if you want to watch something really exciting or really emotionally moving. It just it depicts, I think, real life in such a real life, quote unquote, in such a way out that you don't usually see on TV, while still making it really interesting. So, any predictions for where this season's going to end up? Do you think we'll get into the post McGill kind of Saul world, or do you think that'll be all season 6?
Man, yeah, maybe it will be all season 6. It's hard to say. It's always been hard to predict really much of anything with Breaking Bad or Saul, to this point. Yeah. How much future shit we get, that's the question, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a little, that's maybe the one worry I have for this season is how much will things kind of drag, because they're trying to save some stuff for season 6. I have 100% faith in Gilligan to make this enjoyable to watch, but if I do have one concern, it's will they try to save some stuff for season 6 that maybe we could have spent.
Yep, that is a common thing with drama, so TV dramas. So yeah, that's in the back of the mind at least.
Better Call Saul, watch it. And Dave, what should the people be watching and listening to for next week?
Yeah, next week is an interesting week. We'll have plenty to discuss, but in terms of new releases, some music, mainly Soccer Mommy. That's the most important. Looking forward to that one for sure. Movies, a lot of movies are coming out around this time in various stages of release, so we'll be talking about them, I assume, in multiple waves. But Daniel Radcliffe movie Guns Akimbo is coming. You have the Emma with Anya Taylor-Joy. We have Seberg, Kristen Stewart. Wendy is coming soon. So Corpus Christi, the Oscar-nominated foreign film from Poland, is beginning to pop up. There's this other German foreign movie I'm interested. I think it's German or Russian. I forget. My apologies. Called Beanpole. Looking forward to. A lot of movies. They're going to come out the next few weeks. Yeah, and then we're going to get the end of the Outsider and the new Pope soon. Not Sunday, the Sunday after. So always plenty to discuss.
Give me some time to catch up on those because there's a lot of TV to always be keeping up with.
That's the story.
And if you want to keep up with us, again, subscribe to youtube.com/nostalgiapod, soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod, and follow us at nostalgiapod on Twitter. We'll catch you next week.